There's one reason why we're actually here. I've heard about a fella that makes hops oil.
If it works.
If it works, and that's the big question, if it works. Is it actually hops? Is it made from hops?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's an intriguing product. I mean, you put a toothpick of this into a pint of beer and all of a sudden it's an explosion of aromatics in your face.
Hops have worked pretty well for a couple of centuries now. Unless something is a true game changer, I don't see it disrupting.
We'd love to come and learn a little bit more about you. Is that okay?
I would love to invite you to see Glacier Hops Ranch, see where we put it all together.
Let me see if this is going to be worth the trip.
You tell me.
How are you doing, Tom?
I just took a quick walk into your field there, and I see all your hops are gone, mate.
Well, that's because we're after harvest. It's you missed harvest by about 10 days.
About 10 days, but I still found a few really good smelling ones out there.
Those are really nice. We've got a lot of accidents like that around the harvester. The reason that you've got all female plants out there in the field is so that they don't get Friday night dated. You never know what you get.
This one's a keeper, by the way.
You like it?
I like this one, but you've got something else that just arrived.
Yeah,
here.
this is
and you have me intrigued.
So this came from our partner farm in the lower Yakima Valley. Okay, I'm a happy guy already.
Look at that. You're doing hops oil. Why?
We originally stumbled across oil here as a niche. Our county extension agent from Montana State University suggested that we look at if we could use the old mint and dill steam distillation facilities here, the old distilleries, for hops. And of course, I answered no, because the whole industry is based on CO2 extracts, which is a whole different process. So it was about 4 years ago when Sierra Nevada first announced that they were going to do this Hop Hunter IPA with fresh farm steam distilled hop oil. Got my attention. Wait a minute, didn't she ask me about that? So that was kind of the stroke of, I wonder if we could do it here with some of these, and it took us some doing, but at the end of the day, we produced just a teeny bit of oil from the hops out of our own research hop yard. We took it to the Craft Brewers Conference. The reaction we got was so positive, we went into full production, and we've kind of gone from there.
If you talk to brewers, if you talk to beer people, they are mostly traditionalists.
Absolutely.
They are sticking with the Reinheitsgebot. They are sticking with
501 years now?
501 years, and they don't like new things. So you telling me that I can use hops oil instead of dry hopping my beer?
That's what our customers are already doing. If you think about it, there's really three things that are really different about this pure oil. It's an essential oil by definition. We use a different raw ingredient. We use only fresh hops at harvest time. It's pure steam distillation. There's no alpha acids, beta acids, or any of the other compounds. It's pure oil, so it's only an aroma add. And three, the result is completely different.
So I'm ending up with a taste of what the beer should have tasted before people started to
dry them
and pelletize them and end up with the kind of products that's in our beer today. So is this a true replacement, or are we just adding something to our beer?
Brewers tell us that we're onto something very, very big here. There's almost 7,000 craft breweries just in the U.S. and more than that, exponentially more globally. And as craft really starts taking its foothold into with a hop-forward flavor globally, as that's becoming more popular, things like the shipping and shelf life start becoming really, really important. When you're able to reduce all that shipping weight and reduce all that freezer space and reduce all that biomass that sucks up liquid in the brewing vessel and end up with more money at the end of the day on each batch made, it checks all the boxes that brewers are looking for. It's one thing for a home brewer to say, I'm going to open up a brewery because I love doing it. It's another thing for the bean counters, the shareholders, the owners saying, all right, that's great. We love your artistic approach to great beer. We need to make more money. We need to really focus on the bottom line. How can we get more revenue out of every batch we brew? And we didn't know that when we started. Brewers told us that. All of the information that we have has been developed by brewers.
I've been drinking Hopzoil IPAs for 2 years now, and I go out and I drink IPAs and I find them lackluster. They're not really up to what I anticipate.
Getting those pelletized hops, those hops that have been preserved for year-round use, is expensive. It takes up space. You're managing contracts. It's certainly something you got to manage daily.
We know from dry hopping that there's a certain curve or a shelf life that's associated with a good IPA, and then the flavor starts to get a little dim. But is that not going to happen the same thing with?
That's a really good question. So I defer to Mitch Steele, who wrote the book on IPAs for the Brewers Association, and Mitch talked about the shelf life in beer, the fall off the cliff flavor of hop forward IPAs in particular, between 30 and 60 days. Now what we've learned is that the hop forward flavor using this tends to be 90, 120, 150 days.
Hopzoil's been a unique kind of twist to what we're doing as brewers. For us to get that fresh green quality year-round is pretty unique. You know, some of the unintended benefits that we're realizing is shelf life.
When you drink an IPA, the clock's ticking. Every day it gets less and less aromatic, and eventually when it gets to my lips, it's not where it should be. If you have a New England IPA, for instance, it's only going to be good for 30, 45 days, it could extend to 90 and actually beyond. The dry hop flavor will fall off, but that hop oil aromatic will stay and continue on.
They are the purists, and they've been doing it all along, and it's been the dry hopping, and it's been in the hopper and the hop gun, and they've done their jobby, but they've been using dry hops that actually changed its qualities.
It is, and it actually, I'll take it one step further, because you have taken this and all of its friends, and in order to preserve it, you've had to dry it.
Yeah.
And then
Destroy some of it.
yes, and then you have to pack it and freeze it, and then you've had to pelletize it. And so now you've got something that went from 75 to 80% moisture content down to 8 to 11% moisture content, okay? So what happens when you put oatmeal in water or instant rice in water?
Expensive.
Sucks up all the liquid.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's the same thing that happens to the brewers when they dry hop it. It's going to suck up a certain amount of liquid. The flash point, the evaporation point of some of the oils that are in hops, notably myrcene, are so low that when you're drying hops, even at 125 degrees Fahrenheit, which is quite low, that's at the low end that they can efficiently dry. When you add heat and oxygen to a terpene, which is what is in the lupulin powder, it changes molecularly. And it changes from a classification of a hydrocarbon called a terpene to a terpenoid. So all processed hops, pellets, they all contain terpenoids. When they're fresh, it's considered a terpene. It's whatever is out there in the field is what we capture.
We want that wet hop. We'll take it before it's processed into the kiln where it's dried out to get the most out of the hops. I have a pretty unique still. We use the steam to get essential oils. It's a lot more organic, I think. We were part of a certification and food safety programs on Global Gap and Salmon Safe. It's a peace of mind to the end user.
We grow just under 2.5 million pounds of hops here on this farm. The recent craft beer phenomenon has really helped accelerate the growth in our industry. The United States grows almost 60% of the acreage in the world. 75 to 80% of that is grown here in the Yakima Valley.
What's different about it now that you have lots of different people calling?
Sure. So there's growth, but there's also variety too. So we used to grow maybe a handful, 3 to 4 different varieties for major brewers. Now on our farm we grow 12 different varieties. As it passed through us to the handlers and the processors, there's some really interesting things going on, where it'd be cryo hops, hop oils, specialty extracts that are revolutionary in the brewing process, and we're starting to see the craft industry latch on to some of those things now.
Fresh hop on tap.
Your opportunity as a beer drinker to drink beer with green hops, fresh hops, is almost zero. Are you making the case that there's a better chance now to get some of that flavors by using your Hopzoil instead of the traditional way of doing the hops?
When we first started, that's what we thought the magic was. We thought that the magic was, wow, you can have a seasonal fresh hop beer on a year-round basis anywhere in the world. But what we learned was the large percentage of the population of beer drinkers in the United States, as well as certainly globally, have never even tasted a fresh hop seasonal beer. So they don't know what they're missing. They have no idea.
Does it taste good? Tom, you have to level with me here.
I'll let you decide.
You're gonna, all right?
And here's how we do it. Typically, we're going to start with a TPA, a tea pale ale from our friends here in Whitefish at the Great Northern Brewery. And I'm going to have you do a palate check.
Okay. Nice pale ale.
Okay. And then I'm going to take a sample. What kind of a flavor change would you like in there? Would you like something citrus, orange, tangerine, or a little grapefruit, or pineapple, tropical fruit?
Yeah, let's go for the pineapple tropical fruit. It goes with the tea.
Sounds to me like El Dorado.
Yeah.
All right, now I want you to pay close attention to the huge volume.
A toothpick.
A toothpick, and we make sure there's not a drop, because we've made that mistake and it's not good. So that's how much, it's a wet toothpick, okay?
Yeah.
And all I'm doing is I'm just stirring it in there, and we're just going to let it diffuse a little bit.
So a little bit of a shake.
Perfect.
Right.
And take a nose.
Wow. Just even on the nose, it pops.
Yep.
Pineapple, beautiful. You made the beer better.
That's what's been interesting is
beer better.
you can take an existing beer. So let's say this brewer wanted to take and say, okay, we've got one batch of beer. We want to take our existing infrastructure, but we want 2 different beers from the one beer. We want 2 different tap handles. So they can take a portion of this and use the oil. And so now they've got 2 completely different beers off of the same batch. From an efficiency standpoint, we've had brewers do that and they love it.
Are people ready for it?
I believe so. We started brewing a beer called Frog Hop 11 years ago, and it was a fresh hopped beer within 24 hours of the picking of the hops in the fall. And there's a quality to it that people have a hard time identifying. It's almost a unanimous love for the beer. Even people that are not real hop lovers really gravitate toward this beer.
You've got an opportunity now to do that with Hopzoil.
It's accessible all the time. That fresh quality, that unique grassy characteristic is present, absolutely. People are constantly looking for new tastes, new brands, new ideas, innovation, and there should always be a place for that.
Have you heard of Hopzoil?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, what's your view on it? What do you think about it?
I think if it can bring good flavors and good aromas to a beer, I'm all for it. You know, hops are ruling everything around us right now. And so if any competitive edge that people can get, a better olfactory experience, then brewers are down for it. There's some folks, all they need to see is Citra Mosaic, and they're like, yes, I'm going to drink that no matter what. But there's a whole bunch of other people who don't necessarily know what that means. And so if you start talking about, you know, pineapple and mango and tangerine and all these other things that people know in their everyday lives, now they're going to go and try it a little bit more, and they're going to look for those flavors as well.
Because you're working with oils, it creates opportunities for blending flavors. That must be an enormous opportunity that's opening up to the industry.
What we've had, as people have become aware of what we're doing, brewers have come to us and said, we'd like some samples in this profile. We want really citrusy, floral, or we want really juicy, or we're just going to, throw 3 C's, just give us Cascade, Chinook, and Centennial, and because that's what we use in our IPAs right now anyway. So those were like 3 gimmies for, well, why don't we just create those blends? 3 C's was a no-brainer, and then we came up with one called the Citrus Fruit Bomb, which has got 4 very citrusy, floral, fruity blended together. It's magnificent. And then we got a couple of new ones that we're adding to that blend, and that's our Juicy Fruit Bomb, which is like, exploding in your mouth with all kinds of fruity aromas, which is real popular in today's IPAs.
Let's make it practical. It's fine for me to go with my toothpick and make beers that are not so great better. And I love what you've got here. A beer rescue kit.
Once again, we just listened to brewers and they said, well, we used it to rescue a batch of beer that didn't get the proper aroma. So we simply said, well, then we'll come up with a beer rescue kit. And it's been fairly popular, actually.
The industry, is it changing? Is it ready for something like this?
Based on what we're seeing from customers, I'd say that there is much more acceptance of this today. If you look at the average craft brewer who's maybe opened in the last 5 years, the bloom is off the rose. And they have now got to get serious about it, and they've got to make money. How do I differentiate myself? How do I make more revenue off of every batch of beer that we make? And that message, along with the intense aromas of fresh hops, has managed to resonate with people, but it doesn't resonate with everyone. So one of the cases in point is we had many brewers that came to us and said, we love the idea of the efficiency of using a pure essential oil and not dealing with all the biomass. My gosh, we ship that biomass all the way across the country or across the world, and we're paying for all the shipping on that biomass, and all we really care is we just want to create a tea, the oil just seeping into the beer as we dry hop it. But if we use fresh hops, it's going to change the flavor and the aroma profile. We can't use it in our established production beers. So we went, aha, you're absolutely right, because it will change it. You might like it better, I might like it better, but the thousands of customers that expect your beer to be the same day in and day out, week in and week out, it's going to change it. You can't have that. So our answer to that was to come up with a blend that was true to type for what they're used to. We call that our true hop. And so what we have done is we've taken with a proprietary fractionalization method that matches the oil aroma profile of a traditional processed hop. So we have a standard of each one that we can say, okay, if you use this, this is what the oil profile, primarily of myrcene, caryophyllene, and humulene, of what you're used to putting in, and now you can take advantage of the economic and efficient benefits of using a pure essential oil, but not mess your production beer up in terms of the aroma and flavor.
So have you done some seasonals with Hopzoil?
We have, yes, we have. Again, we've done it from a kind of a shelf life experiment, even when we don't want the flavor coming through, but we want the shelf life qualities, all the way to supplementing our wet hopped beers with it to kind of bolster that fresh quality even more.
That's going to be the future largely, where you see these types of distillation and extraction procedures applied to every raw ingredient and every raw botanical that there is. Right now we're starting with hops, but I think you're eventually going to see these types of terpenes by name and say, I want extra linalool, I want extra pinene, and this much humulene and this much myrcene, and it'll be so customized that the mind just boggles, right?
You're going to keep up? Is there enough hops for you to distill?
So there's plenty of hops to distill. So our friends at Greenacre Farms in the lower Yakima Valley, they are one of the largest hop growers in America. They also have varieties of hops that we can't grow, their proprietary varieties, and in terms of sheer volumes of hops that they can divert, capacity is not an issue. Let me put it that way. Supply chain is not an issue. We've got plenty.
You're not in this business because you like hops, are you? You're in this business surely because you love beer.
I love beer, and I love business development. I love new product development. I love thinking outside the box and really analyzing what is there but not everybody else is seeing. And I've kind of built a career over the last 40 years of approaching the world that way. And this just happens, hops just happens to be the subject of this.
You're going to change the world. And we're so glad that you're sharing some of that with us and with our audience. And all I can say is, wow, we actually can make beer taste better and you make it cheaper. Thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you, Henrik.